A seasoned wolf came to our village one day. I began to scare people. Sometimes it would come out on the road, right in broad daylight, then it scares mushroom pickers in the taiga. The villagers understood that this young and strong predator did not get along with the leader of the pack, so he left. He is looking for a female, wants to create his own pack. People began to be afraid to go into the woods, especially alone. The men called the wolf Bobble. Bobble. That's what people call single young men. Sometimes the peasants would sit down on a bench near the village store, share the news, discuss gossip, so someone would definitely say so. We would have been there earlier, but in the taiga we saw Bobble again with a neighbor. People also began to notice that the wolf began to come to the dogs. To those who live on the outskirts of the village. Closer to the forest. He doesn't go to cables, he always resorts to females. Someone even saw him late in the evening. There were people in the yard, and he was sitting right at the booth with a little dog, looking at her, and she wasn't even barking. Other people said that in the evening they would go out into the garden to water, and he would scurry like a gray shadow over the fence and into the forest. People have become terribly afraid, the predator has become completely emboldened. How to live now? Dogs are not afraid of him, they even let him get close to them. And the old people say that probably a wolf cannot find a free wolf, so he chooses a bride for himself among the dog tribe. And in the village there lived an unmarried, lonely, rather young girl. Her hut was the last one on the street, and the vegetable garden was located right next to the forest. She kept a small household, chickens from a piglet to a goat, an old menyashka. Well, the mongrel dog guarded all this stuff. And so that lone wolf began to come to her yard no more often than others. I looked out the window, the hostess says, and he sits looking at the dog, then out the window. It's like he sees me. I really don't understand if he's after my Gerda, or if he's aiming for me as a groom. The women laugh, they called Lubka, and that's the name of Gerda's mistress, the wolf bride. Of course, she is a woman with humor, understanding, and did not take offense at women. The men offered her to set traps in the garden, but where there, and suddenly her own dog would get caught, and she felt sorry for the wolf. Although he is a terrible predator, he does not harm anyone. Lubka waved it off. And the wolf keeps walking and walking. He's sitting near the doghouse. Sometimes he looks at the dog, and sometimes right out the window, as if he wants to say something. And one day, Lubka went to get water in the morning, and the wolf was lying near the booth. He puts his head on his paws and looks at her. She got scared, threw the buckets, they flew apart with a crash in different directions. A woman ran home and ran to the window faster, but the wolf was not even afraid of the buckets thrown. He lies there and that's it. Luba realized that something was wrong with this wolf. I took a deep breath, plucked up the courage, crossed myself and went back into the yard. Gerda fusses, wagging her tail. Then he licks the nose, then he touches the wolf with his paw. The poor woman whines, but he doesn't seem to pay attention to her. He follows the woman with his eyes. Lubka began to approach him. The beast is alert, raised its head and looked straight at me. It was then that she noticed that the wolf had something strange on its neck. Either a rope, or even a collar. But how could he have a collar? Luba began to approach the wolf slowly. The wolf couldn't stand it, jumped over the fence and ran away. All day long, the woman couldn't get this picture of the rope around the animal's neck out of her head. She went to the village store and told people what she had seen. I thought maybe the villagers would give some advice, but they started talking nonsense at the break. They say they are imagining all this, and they started joking as usual. She decided then to act on her own. In the evening, I put a piece of meat in a bowl, put it in the garden, in the place where the wolf passes. She began to watch through the window herself. Bobble came again. I smelled meat. He rushed to him, laid him down, grabbed him with his teeth, chewed as if, but did not eat, and lay down again. Then he lay down, put his muzzle on his paws and looks at the food. Then Luba understood everything. The wolf can't eat. It's not clear why, but it can't. She went out to him carefully, trying not to make any noise. She approached slowly, did not look into his eyes, but did not take her eyes off the beast. She was much less afraid of him now. Luba understood that if the wolf could not take meat, then it would not bite her either. This time she managed to get very close to the beast, almost at arm's length. But she did not touch him, she wanted him to stop being afraid of her. First, Lubasha squatted down. The beast raised its head. Now she could clearly see what was on his neck. And it was an old leather collar, either with spikes or rivets. But how could he end up on the neck of a wild beast? The collar squeezed the animal's throat so tightly that the wolf could barely breathe. Not what it is. The next day, Luba cut the meat into small pieces, put it in a bowl and put it back in the garden. The wolf, as usual, came smelling the meat. He pounced, began to lick and then realized that it was in small pieces, and began to greedily swallow. It was visible how the small pieces barely slipped down the wolf's throat. I had to press my head unnaturally against my chest with each sip, and then throw it up to swallow the meat. The poor animal has probably been eating nothing but mice and frogs lately. Luba was thinking then. So I came to people for help. Did someone put this collar on him? This means that he was familiar with people before. Day after day, the woman fed the predator, and got closer and closer to him. And one day the day came when she tried to put her hand on his head. The wolf twitched, but did not run away. Luba ran her hand over the beast's neck. He tensed up a lot. She tried to find the clasp, it was not so easy to do. The collar is almost embedded in the neck of the beast. She finally succeeded. She tried to unbutton it, but it was already impossible. Lubasha remembered the small knife in her pocket. Carefully, with one hand, she took it out without removing the other from the animal's neck so that the wolf could not see the foreign object. She slipped it under the collar and cut it. Now it was necessary to carefully remove this ill-fated object without hurting the animal. The woman took hold of the edges of the cut collar with both hands, and began to spread it carefully to the side. The wolf began to shake his head. But she wouldn't let go. He rushed back and freed himself instantly, jumped over the fence and disappeared into the taiga. Luba looked at the collar, there was no blood, so the animal's skin was not damaged, and these were good chances of salvation. The next day she went to the village store with that collar. Here. She showed it to everyone. Look at it. I took off this slaughterhouse from the wolf after all. The people looked at the collar and gasped in surprise. How is that? From where? Or maybe it's not a wolf at all, but a stray dog. There were even such assumptions. No, it's definitely a wolf. The men, to whom he also climbed into the yard, denied it. Near the village store, they also said that there is a Morton station in the district center, this is where wolves and foxes are kept. Somehow, even they had a brown bear. In general, they are kept there to train hunting dogs. That's where a young teenage wolf escaped from a long time ago, maybe a couple of years ago. He broke out right with the collar, and ran into the forest. Only he was never seen again. Isn't this going to be your fiancé? The old men laughed. The next day, the wolf came to Luba again. She fed him again, now Lubasha tried to cut the meat into larger and larger pieces every day. About a couple of weeks later, the woman put in a whole piece. The wolf greedily attacked him, chewed and swallowed the meat without any difficulty, licked his lips and looked at the savior. She stroked his head, completely without any fear, although now there was nothing to stop the wolf from attacking the woman, and he only buried his head in her lap. Over time, he came less and less often. The beast could already hunt by itself, and calmly eat its prey. Lubasha was happy for him, but deep down she was sad that the moment would soon come when he would not come at all. And then one day fate prepared a surprise for Lubasha. Gerda brought 5 puppies, but not simple ones, but the spitting image of cubs. Our bauble turned out to be wasting no time. Only one was born as black as Gerda, and 4 were the spitting image of their father. Luba told everyone about the puppies and proudly declared that now she is not a wolf bride, as she was dubbed, but now she is a wolf mother-in-law. The people laughed and congratulated her on her replenishment. The wolf continued to visit his family. He sniffed the puppies, sometimes even licked them, and then began to bring them prey. Lubasha was amazed. Now she tried not to leave the house so as not to disturb the wolf, so she didn't really look at what he brought them there. The puppies attacked the prey in a crowd and greedily gnawed it. "What am I going to do with you?" the woman was thinking. "We'll have to put you somewhere soon." And one day in the autumn, the owner of that Morden station came to her. Somehow he found out about the rescued wolf and about his puppies. The woman did not immediately understand what he wanted and let him into her yard. The conversation was in the garden. How angry Luba was when she realized why this arrogant muzzle had come. He wanted to set a trap for his wolf, and offered to buy puppies from Luba. The woman began to shout at him and drive him away, and the man began to insult Lubasha, threaten, says that he will take everyone away anyway, without money. Suddenly, like lightning, a wolf flew over the fence. Without touching the ground, he knocked the scoundrel to the ground in 1 second and tried to bite him. The man escaped and barely managed to hide in the house. The wolf stood between the woman and his puppies. Now Luba was sure that this was the wolf that the old people had told her about. Time passed and the puppies grew up. Soon they followed their father into the taiga forever. Luba understood that they would be better off outside. That's how Bobble found his pack. A few years later, hunters began to notice the unusual beauty of black wolves in those parts. These are Gerda's grandchildren, Lubasha thought then. Dear friends, thank you for listening to the story to the end. Like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss new stories.